welcome to the channel. And today we are meeting after a long time. And today we are bringing up brainstorming sessions with you all, in which we will be brainstorming about different topics, and we will try to find solutions to them. And why we started this initiative is because we believe that there's a lot of information overload among students, among all of us in our education system, in our social media, and all around us. However, nobody ever teaches us how to think. We never think. And in that process, we lose our thinking ability, thinking capacity over time. So we want to change this and we want to build individuals who can think and, build more powerful systems, more innovation in the world. So the topic for today is why people become unhealthy. And the thing is that uh, like unfortunately there are some diseases that people have by birth, but a majority of the diseases develop in ourselves over time. And if we see that majority of the people in their 30s to 40s age have one or the other problem in their body, and this is something we think is preventable and can be changed. So the topic is why people become unhealthy, and this is a topic, Madhura, that you chose yesterday. And I think so. Let me introduce Madhura first. So she is my colleague, and we work at A Stotts Investment Research. And apart from being my colleague, she is also one of my very good friends. And today I am glad to have her with me here to talk about it. And so, Madhura, first of all, I would like to know that what made you choose this topic yesterday, and what do you think is one of the biggest reason that that makes people sick these days?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for inviting me and thank you for pushing out of my comfort zone, Himani. It really feels surreal to be a part of this journey. The reason why I chose this topic was I felt it was comparatively easier than the other topics. And this is something that happens in our day to day life. Health is something that we cannot neglect or ignore. So that is one of the reasons why I chose. And I thought it's good to begin with easier topics and then over time we can discuss or brainstorm on complex topics. And I think health as a topic itself is broad. The more you start delving into it, you get to know a lot of things, and there are so many interesting things you discover eventually. So I thought, okay, let's brainstorm about these things. It would be fun.
Okay, so like as far as you notice people around you, then what do you think is one of the biggest reason that is leading to uh, one or the other kind of sickness in people?
If I observe people around me, or even if I observe people in general, I feel there are so many factors, and I don't think there is one key factor as to why people are unhealthy these days. First of all, healthy individuals becoming unhealthy is not something that happens overnight. It happens slowly, it builds up slowly, and eventually the symptoms show up. But by the time symptoms show up, majority of the damage is done. But I think one of the major reasons these days is sedentary lifestyle, and that's mainly because the current youth or maybe the current population is more into desk jobs, and they just stare at the screens most of the time, and there is minimal or zero physical movement. And since they are glued to their screens and they are stuck on their seats, they just don't have any other world apart from the work and the laptop. And because of that, they just remain idle without doing much physical activities. And even because of that, they do not even get exposure to the sunlight. And that leads to vitamin D deficiency. And again, what happens is that people sit idly, but what happens is that they eat a lot of carbohydrate rich foods. Earlier, what they used to do was they used to indulge in laborious work like farming and all. But now it's more of system oriented work, but the food habits have not changed. And again, it just comes back to the same lack of physical movement. What happens is that because you eat carbohydrate rich food, it just does not get burnt out. So you end up consuming a lot of calories, and because of lack of physical movement, it just gets converted as fat. I just do not know if I'm telling the right terminology. I just forgot about nutritional aspect. But I think, yeah, this is one of the major reasons, lack of physical movement.
I agree with you. I think even I around myself see that most of the diseases are lifestyle diseases, uh, whether it is diabetes or obesity or sometimes even depression, mental diseases these days. Like all of them are connected to our lifestyle and the way we eat today. And people have forgotten these days like how to eat healthy. So they consume most of the time junk foods because they don't have time to cook and they don't even have time to, carry on their traditional wisdom of dieting. So one categories are lifestyle disease. Now, like we can think about how we can resolve this issue, considering in mind that, there is a person who has to go to job every single day and suppose that he or she is also studying along with it and he or she has to maintain her or his relationships at home and friendships. So having such a busy schedule, how can somebody, incorporate some habits or some things in their life that can, make them better at how they're managing their lifestyle?
I think if we consider the urban population, the very first thing they can do is minimize the usage of the food delivery apps. Because the moment they start scrolling, what happens is that the cravings just go beyond their limit, and they just randomly order some things at night and they start munching in without realizing the consequences in the long run. So I think in the initial run, probably they can limit their usage and eventually they can uninstall so that they can start focusing on cooking healthy ones. And cooking is something everyone must learn. It's not just limited or it's not just confined to women. But what happens is that because of handling the domestic as well as the work responsibilities, it's not possible to cook just like how our mothers do on a daily basis. So what we can do is we can focus on meal prepping. Like you can just devote your weekends, gathering some vegetables and just prepping them and keeping them or storing them in the refrigerator so that you can quickly cook them as the weekdays begin. Or I think there are beginner friendly recipes which do not involve much ingredients. You can learn that. And even if you feel like having junk food, you can just uh, allot a cheat day, maybe once in a month, rather than munching in every single day. So these are some of the things that's running in my mind. I can visualize everything, but when I speak, I just cannot present them.
Okay, my question is that if we chop the vegetables and keep them in the refrigerator, don't they lose nutrients over the week?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do lose nutrients, but I think it's something better than having junk food.
Yes.
Junk food has, yeah, it has a lot of nonsense, and here it is something better. I won't say it is the best. Always freshly prepared food stands out, but you have to consider the constraints as well in this case.
Okay. So one aspect is dieting. So dieting, trying to eat homemade food and trying to eat healthy food. Another thing that I am able to think right now is your posture. So I have observed that a lot many times, like when I try to work on my bed, eventually I slid past and like I find myself in a lying position over time after 1 or 2 hours when I sit on a bed, and that is very harmful like over time because it affects our spine and it affects the overall structure of our body and leads to some or the other bone diseases. So something which happens to people in their 30s or 40s. So I think the best thing to do is to get yourself a desk and work on desk, and even if you want to work on bed then get yourself a desk that you can put on bed and then work over it. Don't lie down because it will destroy posture over time. And another reason that I can think to maintain your health is going out instead of, going to gym, going out for workout. Like you can go to a park to work out, you can go for a run in a park because that will help in getting the access to nature as well as, the it will improve your mood more than going to gym. This is my observation. So these are two things that I can think of. Okay. So,
I I just
hmm.
want to know more about the posture because I do have a desk right in front of me, and most of the time I keep slouching like this, and my posture is definitely not upright. I always try to sit properly, but within a minute or so, I just lose the momentum. And sometimes what happens is that when I just feel tired, I raise my legs and keep them on the desk and I place my laptop on my thighs. I sit in weird positions. My brother has given me some names, random names, and my dad was like, my dad keeps telling that if you were to work in an office, would you sit like this? So I just do not know. I really need to work on my posture. Yeah, that's one thing. But I am really curious to know, like, how exactly the posture is going to impact the health of individuals in the long run. I do understand that it is one of the factors, but how will it affect the individuals?
Okay, so some things that I know of is that, it is very important for a person to have a healthy spine because if you don't have a healthy spine, it will, you know, make your body curved in your old age, and as well as, what happens that the energy in your body moves from bottom to top. So if your spine is not in a healthy position, the energy flow will be restricted, and then you will have some diseases like हो जाता है ना, like sciatica happens and some other neck diseases happens. So something related to bone, joint pain, and things like that happen, where the blood flow is restricted in a particular part of the body, and then some uh, cells or bones get tying up, and then some problem occurs. Like my mother has varicose veins. It's not related to posture exactly, but it happens due to standing for a long time or things like that. Like blood flow is restricted. So to keep that in check, I think one thing is to, have a proper posture, and another thing is to, do yoga maybe to so that even if you are sitting at a desk all the time, or you are sitting in a certain position like this in front of a laptop, when you do yoga in the morning, the blood flow will have the blood flow, the body will have a complete blood flow, and it will, keep your body in thing, proper place. So things will be resolved.
Okay, that makes sense. So until now, we discussed about two major factors. One is lack of physical movement and people munching in junk food and not having access to the home cooked food. Or some people are too lazy to cook and they just order from food delivery apps, which is okay once in a while, but not all the time. But apart from that, are you able to think of some other reasons which people actually ignore initially, but then uh, they become detrimental to their health?
Hmm. I think one reason that I can think of right now is the problem related to the eyesight. Because, the problem related to the eyesight begins when we are in our developing stage, like in our puberty stage and in our late teenage. So what happens that because the school education has become a lot overwhelming these days, so students keep studying all the time. And in our times, we did not have access to the laptop and stuff. We used to do our studies, through books. But these days, students even do use laptop, and that affects their eyes a lot. Because, I heard one of the doctors of Delhi that he said that, in a young age, till 18 at least, we have to spend a lot of time outdoors. Like it is needed. It's not like something you can do, but you should do. Because if you do not do that, your growth becomes restricted. So I think in my case also, like when I came in ninth standard, I started spending a lot of time in books and stuff and stopped playing in schools, and that is something that affected my eyesight in that stage because till eighth class my eyesights were perfect, and even after, even when I came into college, my eyesights were perfect. Eyesight like stopped declining. It happened in that particular 3 4 years. So I think parents should tell their children to spend time outdoors instead of spending all their time in screens and books.
But what happens is that currently the parents themselves give their children these gadgets. You know, whatever whatever things I have observed, I'll just share that. So my neighbors, they do have small toddlers and they just don't eat. They're very fussy toddlers who don't like to eat what their mothers feed. So to just make their minds diverted, they place a large tab or they just hand over the phone and they start playing some random videos or some Cocomelon rhymes. What happens is that people, those toddlers get used to those gadgets, and growing up, they get their own gadgets, and they just end up getting accustomed to it. And one more thing is that people or the parents might say that, are the roads safe these days? Are outdoors safe these days? The roads are not safe. Anyone might come and crash our child. Where do we send them? Or when it comes to girls, they may say, what about the safety aspect? So there are so many reasons. People start finding reasons. So outdoors are not feasible. Now, if there are people who live in gated communities, okay, they have access to some park or some walking track or cycling track, they can manage. But what about the ones who don't have access to those facilities? How would they go outdoors and spend some time, especially when it's needed? Because, yeah, the growth phase is too important. It's too I mean, it's that period of time where they really need to spend outdoors.
That's
That
a
is one
very,
question that's been running
yeah,
in my mind.
that's a very fair point, actually. Um, but I think, like, what I would say for this situation is that even if you don't have access to playgrounds and stuff in your community, then I think you would definitely have those in schools, right? Because schools majorly have playgrounds. So you can ask your child to like spend time there. I mean, uh, maybe force your child to be involved in one of the other sports in the school. And like there are always solutions. Maybe, you can take your child to uh, different places around your home, maybe one of the temples, like just take them for a walk, take them for something. So just don't keep them always engaged in phone. Like it's also, I think it's a responsibility of parents to take some time out of the work and try to spend with children. Because if children are left alone, what they have is a phone and they would use it. So I think when I think about myself when I will become a parent, I think I will try to develop such a good relationship with my kids that they will themselves say like mom, let's go out, let's do this, let's do that, so that I would not have to force them to do it. So maybe a shift in the way you handle the relationships can change this.
I like this point, but somewhere you mentioned that the parents must force their children to take part in some or the other sports activities. But what's happening is that, especially in our country, every day it's becoming competitive, and the sports classes are getting cancelled just to cover up the syllabus, and they just don't emphasize on children playing outside or children spending time outdoors. So I think that is some universal problem. I think even we have faced that, especially during our 10th grade. Our teachers, math teachers, science teachers used to just come and they used to say, no, no, your PPT classes are cancelled. Don't go out to play. We want to finish the syllabus. And now you just don't even ask. People are, getting involved in JE training, and they're also involving in a lot of coaching classes at such a tender age where they must be enjoying their childhood. Childhood is actually getting destroyed because of the rat race. So somewhere even that can be one of the major factors where these toddlers eventually become unhealthy adults.
Somehow it is all starting with our educational system, right? Because
Yeah.
I remember, I had one friend who used to go to school in 12th class, he used to go to school firstly, and then he would go to the Akash Coaching Institute after his school, and then all the day he would spend studying and he had PCMB, so he would just always be in books. And after 2 years, he was completely like, I can't do anymore. So I think we destroy the thinking ability of students by loading so much information on them. Uh, a part of the change needs to come from the policies that government make. But as long as I think government is not working, I think we have to decide about what kind of life we want to have, right? So maybe even if the school is pressuring so much, we shouldn't pressure so much into that. We must decide that what do we want to do in our life, right? So, like some people choose chess in their life and they focus all their attention on chess. They don't bother what their schools are saying and stuff. So, I think we have to become the kind of students who decide their future, who decide what they want to be, instead of letting the schools decide what we should be. So maybe something like that may happen in India, I think so, in the future. But till
But
then,
definitely not in the, yeah, but
yeah,
definitely not in the near years.
yeah, not
It
in
will
near
take a
years.
lot of time. And I think one of the most overlooked reasons is mental stress. I think it's very much common in school as well as in the workplace. The rat race, the competition, uh, that feeling of, not beating exactly. I'm not able to get that word. It's like I have to perform better than him. I have to earn more than him. So sometimes we mentally pressurize ourselves. We start comparing the lifestyle of ours with others who quote on various platforms. And because of that mental stress, what happens is that we indulge, we tend to become over workaholic. And again, it just comes and to the final factor, lack of physical movement. So sometimes what happens is that people just keep scrolling the reels and they compare their lives. What happens is that the movement is only of the fingers and the eyes. They are either on their bed or they are on the sofa. Some people, what happens is that the fire within them just sparks, and then they'll be like, no, I have to work hard. I have to be better than this person. It's good to be competitive, but sometimes it can be detrimental. And then they just go and start working relentlessly. And these days, there are people who romanticize this alpha life and hustle culture. And again, because of that lack of physical movement, just to earn money, you just start ignoring your health. And I think it just circles back to the same reason, lack of physical movement.
I agree with
Hustle
you.
culture is some, yeah, hustle culture topic needs to be discussed some other time.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between using your mind really well, like being productive in life and hustling.
Mm.
Like you can be
Yes,
productive all day, focus on something all day, and still not say that it is hustling. I feel that way. And that is a kind of life that I am trying to build. I've spent about 20 years of life comparing myself to others and being in mental stress because I just wanted to get somewhere in life. But later I realized that comparison has no point because my life is different. What I want to be in life is different. And what makes me happy is different from what makes somebody else happy. So I do not compare myself anymore. And I have a very stable mindset right now on which I'm building my life. And I wish that every single individual in the world starts to realize that they don't have to pressure themselves. It's their life. They can take it slow and still be successful in life.
totally. I totally
Yeah.
agree your point. So, what is the final solution to this topic? Now, there were so many factors, and
Yeah.
we just cannot come up with one final solution. There are so many factors, and we need to come up with different solutions for different key areas. But I think if there was one factor where people can work on to improve their health on a daily basis, then what would it be?
I think one point would be to simply take out some time I would prefer morning, but people can even take out time in the evening to, be alone and in that alone space, uh, work out. Maybe do yoga, maybe do workout. But I would say alone because when you are alone, you are able to think consciously about what you're doing in life. And you're able to, at least for some time, move away from the crowdy world and focus on yourself. So I think giving that alone time to yourself, where you work on your body, you work in your mind, is very important. That will automatically make people conscious about what they're doing in life, as well as what they're eating in life. And if you're conscious, I realize that when we're conscious, we're able to understand what a particular kind of food is having impact on our body. So, like for example, if we eat a lot of sugar, then it makes us lazy after some time. It affects the body. You will realize when you are conscious. So I think giving that time to yourself in the morning is first.
So it's me time and move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was such an insightful discussion, and I just don't even know how many minutes are left for the session to end. But it was really nice interacting. I think it was actually a good one. Even though we came unprepared, we were able to speak out. That's something which I liked. All these days, our plans is to never work out. They never used to get executed somewhere or the
Hmm.
other of the triathlon challenge.
Hmm.
I just don't know when that will happen. But if it happens, it will be good. But I don't think it would be now. Definitely not now. The summers are too harsh, and I
Yeah.
just don't feel like going out.
I think somewhere in our life, at some point in our life, we have to come to Goa and dedicate our whole year to that and practice there because, our climates don't support that kind of training. So we have to do that.
So, what is the conclusion of today's discussion?
Okay. So I think the conclusion would be to take some measures to support your health, physical as well as mental, because there are a lot of diseases that happen to us that are preventable. Okay, they do not happen because because of your age, because because you're 50, you have to have this disease. No, they're preventable if you just breathe properly, if you just eat healthy, if you just move enough. Moving is important. And if you stay in positive environments, it is very important because if you stay in toxic environments, it will not only impact your health, but it will automatically lead to some psychosomatic diseases which grow up in the body over time. So stay happy, stay healthy, eat healthy, and take steps to not only improve your health, but of your family as well. So this is the conclusion of today. And I think I would thank Madhura for coming to this session and making it so enlightening. And uh, so, what our plan is that we plan to conduct these sessions on a weekly basis every Saturday at the same time, most probably. And we would like to have more people join these brainstorming sessions and help us, find solutions to the problems that nobody talks about and make this country, make this nation, and even this world a better place to live in. Uh, where people not just, live, but live happily and healthily. So I'm very excited for the next session next week. And till that time, have a good weekend. Madhura, do you
Yeah,
have any last words to say?
you just covered everything, Himani. And thank you once again for inviting me. And thank you for starting this. And yeah, we just did not procrastinate this time. And that's the best part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So have a good weekend. I'll be watching IPL from today. So I'm super excited.
Okay, okay. Thanks for reminding me too. I will watch too. And have a great
Yeah.
weekend, Madhura, and everybody that is watching
Yeah.
us. Bye bye.
Bye.